Good morning everyone, it's 22nd of May 2015. My name's David Pengilly and welcome back to part 10 of my Porsche 911 RS Backdate project. And I'm afraid to say that there hasn't been a lot of progress in the last few days. And the reason for this is, one, I'm still waiting for some parts from D. Morris in France, and secondly, unfortunately, I've strained my back lifting the MIG welder when I was trying to weld on the second wing, and that has been a little bit of a setback because it is very difficult doing mechanics, bending over, getting under cars and things like that. So in the spirit of getting this job finished as quickly as possible, I've organised for a labourer and body worker to come and help me starting from tomorrow, Saturday. So hopefully I'm going to make some progress and get this car on the road. So what I thought I'd do is, a number of people have commented on the various details of the way I've been doing things, and of course as a Porsche beginner you shouldn't really take much stead in the way I've decided to do it. I'm just doing it in perhaps what seems the logical way at the time, and there have already been a few mistakes, and I'm going to go through a little bit about what I've learned now. So thought maybe that would be worthwhile. Now, one of the first things that I learned was that these glass fibre panels that you buy for your Porsche 911 are usually pretty low quality, and they don't fit very well. They're very lightweight and flimsy. They can bow, and we found that the first thing was that the bonnet didn't sit properly in its aperture, and then Dave and I adjusted the hinges on this car and we got this bonnet to sit perfectly. But the moment you reconnect the pneumatic struts to the bonnet, it pops back up again, and it's because they're simply too powerful for this lightweight panel. It cannot resist the force, and that is despite the fact that these pneumatic lifts are so tired that they cannot hold up the steel bonnet. When I put the glass fibre bonnet on there, of course they can hold it up. They don't lift it, but yeah, they can hold it, but they have the effect of raising the back of that bonnet, so it's completely unacceptable. And I did read somewhere that the early cars had an aluminium stay to hold the bonnet open, and that is really the only option. You have to do something else. So that's one thing that you learn. And one guy, John, on DDK Online, pointed out that if you take those struts off, David, there's a good chance that your bonnet will fit without modification. And I wanted to point that out because that is something worthwhile to know. So thank you, John, for that. Came a bit too late for me. Hopefully it will help the next guy. So there we go, that's one thing there. Now you might remember also that my mate Dave, who's very experienced in welding up old motors, said to me that I welded on this section onto a later wing to make an early long bonnet appearance. What I should have done was waited until the glass fibre front bumper turned up, and then I could make sure that it fitted nicely before I welded it on. So that was a mistake. I never thought of that. So that is another thing. Get all the parts, and of course, because there's no manual on doing a backdate, it's not like an original car. You're sort of learning this stuff or making it up as you go along. Anyway, you can see there I welded up where someone had an aerial on the car, and there were originally, of course, flag wing mirrors on this car, and I sold those to a girl called Jane who wanted them for her Porsche, and I think I got £60 for the pair. What I've done, I'll show you now, is I have bought a pair of these chrome period wing mirrors. Very nice polished effect. I guess that's, not sure if it's for this side or the other side, but anyway it's going to go on something like that. And these were actually a copy of a design that may not have been from the Porsche factory, but were used on Porsches and Alfa Romeos and rally cars in the period. So I think that's quite a nice thing that I'm going to put on there. So I've got two of those. You might also remember that I fitted these rear wings, and that job went well. Well, on the other side it was easy to use my spot welder all the way round, but on this second side, of course, there is the oil tank there in the way. So either you can spend some time removing the oil tank so you can use your spot welder all the way round, otherwise you have to MIG weld the last 40 centimeters around this side, because there is no access on the inside for a spot welder. So that is something that is worth knowing as well. So on this side I've put a tiny bit of filler around the joint and it is looking good. But it occurred to me that I would have been better off waiting for the rear bumper before I fix that wing on, because once that rear bumper is on there, it is, before you weld this, possible to move this forwards or backwards 5 or 6 mil. You know, the flange is flexible in there. So even though it is pretty much a case that it dictates where it's got to go, because here this has got to be flush here, and so you know there isn't really a lot that can go wrong welding that on. But let's wait and see when that bumper turns up, because it could be that I could have moved that and made it an absolutely perfect fit with the rear bumper, and now it's on there. I might have to make some adjustments with filler or what have you. So that's another thing that I've learnt. A guy called Bob on DDK pointed out that on the back here I've got a glass fibre ducktail spoiler, and I've modified it with that stuff called structural foam. And he said, well done, you've done a good job there, but remember it's highly inflammable. So now he's got me worried about that. Can you use highly inflammable foam inside that boot panel when it's over the engine? What do you think about that? So here is that boot panel. It's not quite finished yet because I ran out of foam, so I'm going to do a little bit more along this side. But as you can see, it's going to have some highly inflammable foam inside that highly inflammable glass fibre boot panel. So I don't think, with my experience, that there's anything that is more inflammable than glass fibre resin. That really burns well. Below 100 degrees C it starts to sag and melt down towards the hot engine. So whether this is more dangerous than that, I do not know. But I think after it's all finished, it's going to be painted with highly inflammable paints, and providing that is sealed there and covered with that highly inflammable paint, I'm not sure really that will be any more inflammable as a whole than if there was no foam there. So yeah, it's worth thinking about before you do these things. Yeah, it is going over a hot engine. Now, because I've got a bad back and I can't bend down properly, I'm taking some time to strip off the black paint which the last owner put on all the anodized aluminium work, so that I can have the nice shiny appearance round the windows and round the round the glass as well. So you know, this grille is black on the RS 2.7, but everything else has got to have that shiny anodized finish. And because they painted it black and did a reasonably good job, unfortunately they sanded it all down, roughed it up before they painted it, and that means that that anodizing is now ruined. So what to do about that? It's terribly difficult stripping off black paint from inside those channel sections, and doing it with paint stripper. I've tried 4 coats already. It's not coming off very easily, and it's already damaged. Even when I get it off, it's damaged. So what to do about that? I don't know.